Hello, hello. Welcome to the Make It While You Fake It podcast. A podcast about running a custom furniture and woodworking business while also trying to start a community makerspace outside of Philly. All without having any formal education in woodworking or in business. I'm Dan Skirma from Woe Shop Woodworking and MontCo Makers, and I'm glad that you're here with us. Yeah, I just hit record.
Huh?
I just hit record.
Oh, we just started now.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Well, hello, everyone. All you 25,000 people who are listening daily. It's not really that high, but it's actually growing.
It was 14 last time I looked.
For the last episode.
Yeah.
But we're up to like 70. People started the show from the first one 70
Really?
times. Yeah. It's not bad.
It's a hard one to find. I went to go look for it again.
Honestly, it is hard to find podcasts in general. Like, you have to type it in exactly.
Yeah, that's
really
I found
annoying.
it the one time when I sat down and I listened to the first two.
Yep.
And I'm like, cool.
Yeah.
I went to go look for the third one. I couldn't find it. I still haven't found it.
Yeah.
Like, how the hell did I find this?
Yeah, I don't know. It's really and anything. So I used to what's the one that just there was a spot, not Spotify. There was one that just shut down, that they were up in New York, a whole streaming service, and I forget what they were called, but they just shut down entirely. But I couldn't find anything on their site unless you knew the exact full and complete title. This guy that
Did they have like a search window for each individual one like YouTube does?
it's a general search, but again, like if you don't type it in exactly, you don't find the one, because there are also so many that, like, there are a lot of shows that are very similar to this title. So it's just like kind of,
yeah, I found that.
Yeah.
There was a lot of self-help stuff that came up.
You do need that.
Personally, or
you should probably introduce yourself, because anyone listening has no idea who the hell you are.
Oh, I'm Mike.
So this is Mike, also known in my phone as Shot Mike. I like him because he's shorter than I am. He's definitely balder than I am.
Shorter, no. Balder, yes.
You still think you're not short?
I wear a hat so I don't blind people when I drive.
Well, also, I've known you for probably 2.5 years now. At this point, at least 2.5 years. I don't know how the hell to say your last name. Is it Pietras?
Pietras.
Pietras?
Yes.
What is that?
It's Polish.
It's Polish. Oh, my wife's
there's no ski on the end. Sorry.
My wife's a Polak.
And it actually is, from what I gather, it's called Pietras.
Yeah.
If you say it.
Sure. But no one's ever going to say that.
No, wait, it's Pietras.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, my wife's family are the Siedleckis. So, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, you're in good company. So tell all 1 million people listening. You're pretty good at woodworking.
Yeah, I've been doing it for.
You're so old too. So how many?
I started when I was 11.
All right, so 112 years.
Let's see. That would be 42 years now.
Jeez, dude. And you started here, obviously, and then you went down to the Caribbean.
Yeah. I worked with my grandfather some.
Yeah.
I worked at a place called the Furniture Mill. I went to school for woodworking.
Mm-hmm.
Knew I wasn't going to go into academia.
No.
I think most people that go into woodworking are either dyslexic or ADHD or both.
Yeah.
I'm both.
Almost everyone I know. Yeah, almost everyone I know is that way. It's really just like a hit list of how good are you going to be. You just check all of them.
I did a lot of custom work in the Princeton area, high-end stuff for the universities, for restoration, custom builds. And in 97, I moved down to the Caribbean, to the Caymans, where my wife is from. So I've had a business there until I moved back in 2011. The schools aren't very good down there.
Yeah.
And one of my children needs extra help.
Yes. Yep.
So we moved back. I worked with a friend of mine when we came back. He has a shop in the Pennington area. He was a dual business person. He worked for Met and did restoration.
Nice.
So when Met kind of just overseed everything, they sent everything overseas, he had to find a new job, and it was a little bit rough on him. So the business slowed down. And then I went working with another gentleman that was an acquaintance of the shop. That didn't work out very well.
Yeah.
And
nice.
then
and now here you are.
Yeah, here I am.
And you're going to be, most likely, let's be honest, you're going to be teaching some courses.
Yes.
At MontCo Makers.
Also, I am the person that Jake apprenticed under.
So you are responsible for him.
I wouldn't say that, but
you're the reason that this is happening.
Yeah, actually, because when I met him, he was 18. He was clean cut, wearing khakis and dress shirts.
Half the height, half the width.
Definitely half the width.
CrossFit will do that.
He was a very, very skinny kid.
Yep.
But he was just phenomenal with, you could show him something and he picked it up the first time.
Yeah.
Now, his experimentation sometimes got a little dangerous.
Well, you're not having fun unless you're pushing the limits, I guess.
Yeah. When you want to push a 4-inch piece of wood over top of a shaper, at that point, it was like, yeah, Jake, you're not touching the tools until I come into the shop. You can use hand tools only.
Yeah. Nice. No, but we have a whole laundry list of ideas for courses. And we talked about this. I talked about it with Jake a little bit last week, how a lot of the courses in the other places that are around here where they offer classes, a lot of them are 4 hours, maybe 2 Saturdays. They're short classes where a lot of the stuff's done for you. You kind of put some stuff together. You learn a couple skills here and there. But you can only take that so far. And the model has always been, in my head starting this up, was the classes are kind of the gateway to memberships. I came in, I've always wanted to take a course and make some stuff. You make some stuff in a class. Like, this is pretty awesome. You walk them through the members class just to get to this place where the courses are, so they see it. And they're kind of intrigued. They see everyone building stuff all around them. They see the noises, the smells. It's really a fun place to be. So they start to get a membership. But while that's probably still true, I think some longer form classes are going to be.
You're not going to start somebody off with, hey, we're cutting dovetails today.
No.
Hey, we're doing houndstooth dovetails today, or sunburst dovetails.
Mm-hmm.
A sunburst gives seasoned woodworkers anxiety.
Yeah, right. right. Don't mess up the last one.
Oh my God.
And
it's delicate when you're putting it together because it's put, instead of putting the pieces together at a 90 degree and they slide in, these are put at a 45 and they slide in at an angle. It's kind of a really, really interesting dovetail because it looks impossible.
Yeah. It's have you tried to make the that impossible mallet before?
Yeah,
that Lincoln one or whatever the hell it's called. This guy Third Coast Craftsman, who I've followed forever up in Michigan, he made one of those, and I watched the video a lot because it is so satisfying to look at.
Hey, that could be one of the courses.
Dude, that'd be great. That'd be pretty fun. It'd also be very frustrating.
Yes, it's definitely not for beginners.
It's like this is a 2-weekend, 8 hours a day course for a total of 16 hours, and we're gonna make one. People are like, well, what are we gonna do with all the rest of the time? Most of the times for your first 6 screw ups. and we'll have a break. We'll have a destruction room where you can throw stuff against the wall.
So the concept of them, because they go in at a different angle, they don't look right. They don't look like they're possible.
No.
So at that point, people go nuts because they want to look at it and work it like their brain tells them to.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And that doesn't work with some of these.
Well, and when it's finally together, it tricks you because you're like, okay, that doesn't look that hard until you actually see it slide together. You're like,
Yes.
what the hell? What is that? Who came up with that? It's like a lot of the Japanese timber framing joinery, all that kind of crap.
The very first, when we got the router boss, the very first thing done on the router boss was an impossible dovetail.
Nice. That's fun.
By Jake.
Nice.
We had to fix the router boss.
Well, yeah. Well, that takes it to another level because now your like orientation is also screwed up.
Yeah,
that.
It's a great tool.
Yes,
but it's one of those that you just have to work with to get it in your brain because you're working upside down.
Yeah, yeah. I've always wanted to use a panto router for doing joinery and stuff. The thing is, it's so expensive.
I have one.
I
can bring it in,
and it's so expensive. But on top of that, it's one of those tools that it's just so much setup to get there. So unless I'm doing a big run of stuff, it's not worth it.
No, it's not. Especially when you have the CNC, it really is not anymore.
Yeah, right.
It is a good, like when you have the massive setup ones that do like 20 something off of a template.
Right.
So gun stocks are done that way. They have a master gun stock or duck decoys, some furniture parts. They chuck it into a massive panel router and it will copy.
And it's moving like 20 arms.
Yeah, you're doing 20 of them at a time. It's cool not like it's...
That's cool, so.
Yeah, when you're doing it on CNC, it's slower.
Yeah.
And the fact that you're only doing one at a time. Whereas this one does, a guy I know, he did a gun stock business and he had ones that were like 30, 40 feet long.
Yeah.
To load gun stocks in blanks. And then he would do the, off the master.
That's crazy.
Some of these old tools are absolutely fantastic.
Oh, absolutely. I saw for the first time I assumed that this thing existed. I just never had seen it. The tool to make the seats of chairs with the butt grooves and everything. And that machine looks so goddamn cool. But like to find parts to get it wired up, to have someone that knows how to adjust it and everything, like it's just as hard to find someone to get it up and running as it was to find it.
Although I prefer the manual stuff than the electronic stuff.
Yeah. Oh, well, absolutely.
Hence the Sanders still sitting here.
Yes, it is.
Because it needs somebody with electronics, and I ain't it.
Yeah, it needs a lot of sensors, and I think it needs $2,500 worth of work to get that. We have a time saver. How wide is that? 30 inches?
No, that's a 20 inch.
Is it really? That's only it? That's all it is? So
maybe an 18 to 20. It's not much. I mean, it's a great sander.
Yeah.
And one of the things that everybody makes a mistake with sanders is they get the open-ended one because they're like, I can do twice as much.
I've had it. It was horrible.
They suck. I
had the Jet. I had the smaller one. I had the 1632 one or whatever. Because I know they make 2244 and they make a couple other ones. But there's so little adjustment to get that cantilevered arm to be flat and square that if you actually did half and half, and that's the thing, you watch YouTube guys do that and you're like, oh, that worked great, because off camera they sanded the seam.
Yeah,
because the seam was very potent.
So if you're going to use, say you're sanding poplar, you're running it through, you adjust that thing really, really good.
Yeah.
And it's working sort of fine. And I'm going to say sort of fine because I've never actually had one that was great.
Mm-hmm.
I have the Delta in my shop. We had the Performax.
Yeah. Those are really the main ones.
Grizzly.
Yeah.
We had a full-size Grizzly in the last shop that I worked at.
The big Grizzlies are fine. The open-ended ones
the open-ended they suck.
Yeah.
There's none that I've seen that actually work. So if you put softer woods through, and you tune it to fit that, when you go to a harder one, the tension now kicks up the roller a little bit, and it's not flat anymore.
Yeah.
I had done a wine cellar, and this was to house, I think it was like 2,700 bottles of wine.
That's a lot.
And it was all dividers. So
right.
All the dividers for the shelving had to be sanded. Well, we were doing them through the sander. What I found was I built a carriage for it that I could put these dividers in through the sander. But on the right side, they were getting thin. On the left side, they were, no matter what type of sanding. And what it ended up happening was, I then went and said, yeah, I'm only doing 2 at a time, running them through this carriage. Took a lot longer, but at least I got them to be decent.
Yeah.
And it's a fault in the machine because it's got too much flex. Even a big machine like that big Grizzly, it's like a $10,000 piece of equipment, and it sucked.
And that's the thing. To me, I wasn't really buying them for the open ended. I bought it because the enclosed ones were a lot more money. I was just like,
and usually they were 3-phase or 220.
Yeah, they were. Well, I did wire my basement for 220 specifically for that dust collector mounted on the wall. That was my main dust collector in that shop. And for my Laguna bandsaw.
Yeah, Laguna's.
Yeah.
Trying to think.
So my
Laguna is actually 110.
So that one could be 110. I bought it at 220. The saw stop is 110 now, and I have the kit to convert it to 220. And I just didn't even bother because 220 in this shop sucks.
Yes,
it's really hard to get drops where we need them and whatever. But in the makerspace, it is literally every single drop is going to have all three. It's going to have a 110, a 220, and a 3-phase. Just ready.
And a set. And a set above each bench.
Exactly. Yeah, it's going to have to, and that's already premeditated because I want to be able to move stuff around as it grows and whatever.
I absolutely love 2 things over top of my bench. I want a 110 reel.
Yep.
With a 3-plug.
Mm-hmm.
And I want an air hose.
Yeah. Absolutely.
The only time I actually like the slinky air hoses is when they're hanging from the ceiling because you never knot them up. And the other time, you turn sideways and it's all knotted up, and you spend the next hour on doing a slinky.
Yeah, pretty much.
Slinky hose.
Yeah, it's a story of my life in here.
But to hang them, they're great.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, that's definitely the mindset. And this is the other thing that, and it's ADHD. My brain is just going in all sorts of directions. The other thing that I start while we're talking about, that'd be nice to have in the shop. The thing I'm sort of leaning towards now is having like a pro shop and a hobby shop, kind of, where you have guys that are small business owners that are contractors, they're cabinet makers, they're doing stuff in the pro shop. And then the hobby shop is where the people that just took classes and beginners and all that are hanging out, where the instructor has to be there to guide.
And the safety saw stop feature.
Yeah, that's where the saw stop lives. And all the people that hate the saw stop because of all of its annoyances that won't be in the pro shop. I'll get you a 1992 Unisaw and you'll be happy.
I'll just bring mine in. I got 3 of them.
There you go.
Got to admit though, you can't beat a Unisaw for just basic, simple stuff.
I just want it to be left tilt. I hate right tilt so much.
You have to have both. So one of the problems with the left tilts that I find...
How has no one created a right tilt and a left tilt by now?
They have.
Where?
There was a Rockwell Delta that tilted like 15 degrees the other way.
Nice. Okay.
It was a right tilt, but then it went like 15 degrees to the left. Right. It was a good feature. It was a 12 inch.
Yeah.
It was a 12-inch saw. But like the Unifence with the Peachtree replacement fence, which is a lot stiffer than the Unifence aluminum piece.
Yeah.
You can actually do a T-track.
Nice.
That it locks down. So if you wanted to throw 3-inch lumber through there and you're hogging it, and you're afraid that T-style fence would flex.
Yeah.
You can lock it down on the other end and you can't move it.
Yeah, that's pretty sweet. Yeah, I do not like, this is what the Biesemeyer style.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't, so this one just needs adjustment, because right now when you move it and you tighten it, it jumps.
Yeah.
It's just really annoying. So I pay attention to where it is at the scale and then it moves. But if I'm tapping a piece of wood to like kiss the blade and I want it to just be there as to set it, if I lock it now, it's less. So I have to like play with it.
We had one of the other shops that I worked at up in Hopewell. We had an AccuFence, which worked like an architect's drawing board with the cables and the pulleys.
Oh, geez.
And it worked great. It never got knocked off.
I feel like I've seen that. It had like was it almost like the planer bed where it had like it wrapped around on four sides? Yeah. Okay.
It was 4 corners with pulleys, cables, and then it had like a little notched block that fit into it. So you could take the fence off.
Yeah.
But you had to just loosen it up, push the notch out, and it came apart.
That's pretty cool.
It was a cool fence, but it was just a basic fence. It didn't do the things that like a unifence did, which was nice if you're doing laminates or veneers. You can kick over the fence, and it had a secondary shallow fence.
Oh, right. I remember
that allows you to just
I remember that.
Laminates or veneers over top of it.
Yep. I do remember that. No, my Unisaw was I had a nice one. I had one that was new. It was an ex-girlfriend's dad, and they moved across country, and then I bought a lot of his stuff. So I had that exact same Delta drill press. I had that in my basement. I had the Unisaw with 52-inch, whatever rails, and he had a dedicated barn for his shop, and they built it for his shop, which was nice. Even though he was a hobbyist, it was awesome. But he then doubled the outfeed, and that was his work station. So he had a big old island pretty much in the middle of the shop, which was pretty cool. I didn't have a lot of room in my basement, and getting that down into my basement was horrible.
Oh yeah.
We took all the cast iron off. It was just the body.
Oh, by the way, I have a 16-inch Powermatic upcut saw for the makerspace.
I don't know what that is.
Okay.
An upcut saw?
Think of a chop saw turned upside down with
That's a table saw.
No. It cross cuts. What? So you put it on the fence. And you hit an actuated foot air pedal. Air cylinder clamps whatever you had down, and the blade then comes up off the table into the wood that you have.
This sounds like a terrible idea.
It's not. It's got.
This sounds like not a widowmaker, but what do you call something that is bound to chop an arm off?
Triage surgery. It's got all the guards for it. It works excellent. It will hog through.
So does it stop if it hits my skin?
No. Oh. This would not go. This would not go in the hobbyist section.
No, definitely not.
And it's huge.
Yeah.
I mean, it's running a 16-inch blade.
That's enormous.
And I was cutting at the time. I was cutting like 12-inch by 2.5-inch ash, and it would cut probably within a second and a half. It should done. That was it.
Yikes. That's.
But
sure. Why not? Sure. We'll have that if anyone's looking to chop their arm off.
If you're cutting up lumber, you can actually stack your lumber if you're going to do multiple stacks.
Bad. Okay.
Feed it through. It does save time.
Is it a clean cut?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a very clean cut.
I'm thinking for like, if you're doing like face frames and stuff, like everything needs to be down to an inch and a half thick or an inch and a half wide. Like I need a whole stack of it done.
Well, that'd
be kind of
when you say about framing.
Yeah.
That's the other thing that's going to come into the makerspace is like a 1950s miter trimmer from a framing shop.
Oh, the thing you sent me?
Yeah.
I love that thing.
It is a freestanding unit that has a pedal actuated blades that come down and will do a 90 degree notch 245s, and it is so clean, it's ridiculous. And because it's coming from the top, if you're doing like pre-done molding, it's super clean.
Yeah, that's pretty sweet. That thing looked petrifying. That's going to be sharp. It's
sharp as yes, it is. But it works fantastically, and it's got the guards on it, so you're really it's actually pretty safe. And it's got 2 little bars that come in at 45s that you can set to support your rabbet on your frames.
Sure.
So you're not blowing out the bottom of the rabbet. These come right up to where the blades are. You lock it down.
Nice.
And every time you cut. And then what happens is the fence that holds your framing has a bar on the right side, and it's got notches, so you can move it forward and take nips of like 1/8 inch cuts up until what you want. And you can also set it for whatever depth whatever movement you want for the frames that you're doing.
So I think for stuff like that, I feel like even if it's not in the hobby shop, I feel like people have to at least have a little. They have to be able. We have to teach them how to use that.
Oh yeah,
that's going to have to be like, hey, this one is off limits unless you.
Oh yeah.
Fob it, or like, so there's got to be some sort of process for
more
you actually know how to use this, so you can use this, because this is very dangerous. Like, there has to be something.
I think it's more like you just do the OSHA painted lines.
Yeah.
You have your yellow line, you have your red lines.
And
you know, we have little skull and crossbones on some of the others. Like,
so that's the thing.
Yeah, unless you're a professional, you're not touching this.
That's what I mean. I'm trying to think of logistics of that, because that, I imagine that a pro shop, you assume that people are in there, know what they're doing for the most part, but with typical tools, right? But then when you get into this scary stuff that is unusual, no one has seen this miter notcher, John. They don't know how to use it. The whole thing's cast iron. The adjustments are bogus. Like, it can't, it's all good. But like, you get to that point, and I don't know how you like enforce that outside of like, you need a special key to turn this machine on, or something like that. I don't know.
Or you just separate it by like a half wall or a series of benches.
That's also true. Yeah. Kind of like a restricted area type deal. Yeah. Interesting.
I mean, there's a lot of tools that I just don't want people on.
Well, right.
And some of the things like people just get complacent with.
Yeah.
Bandsaw is one that really creeps up on you.
Absolutely.
Everybody thinks, oh, I can do it. I can keep my hand out. Well, when you're following a line with a bandsaw and say you're doing rip after
you're
rip.
Looking at the goddamn line.
Well, there's a phenomenon that happens that the line disappears.
Especially when you're right on it and you start getting cross-eyed.
You're concentrating on this line and your brain goes, yeah, that line doesn't exist, so I'm going to take it out of your vision. It literally disappears in front of you, and you go, how the hell does that happen? And you have to like kind of just look away, look back down again, and it's back there. But your brain really messes with you with that.
That's fine. I made that point when we had scouts in here one time. So we had scouts in here, and we were doing a whole shop tour. So Jake had them outside showing them the bandsaw mill, and he was doing a whole demo of sawing a log. And then I had a group of like 20 kids in here, and they were around 10, all of them. So there were probably 20 10-year-olds and like another like 8 or 9 parents in here. And so we were going tool to tool, showing them the joiner and then the planer and whatever. And then I talked to them about the bandsaw. I'm like, this one, it seems real simple. And then if you're looking at this thing straight on and you're concentrating on this, there's just magically nothing there anymore. And they're like, what are you talking about? I'm like, you're not, none of you are touching it today.
It's just one of those things that you go, this should not be. It doesn't make sense.
Well, especially if you have like a 1/4 inch blade, especially. Like some of the 3/4 inch ones, it's kind of hard to disappear, but they're also really thin now. So,
but the line itself, he's not even looking at the bandsaw, at the blade.
Oh,
but
right.
The line itself disappears, and it's just your brain saying, like you don't see your nose. Your nose is basically gone unless somebody mentions it.
Right. Yeah.
Yet you can see it all the time.
Yeah, right. Right. Especially me, I'm Italian. It's
Polish, same thing.
That's just true. I've always been drawn to schnozzes. So it's always been a thing.
And you know what's funny with like accidents in the shop? Almost 100% of the time, it's because someone didn't follow the rules.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
There was a couple of times we had 3 accidents when I was in school. One was a kid put his thumb through the joiner.
Easy to do.
Yeah. If you don't use your push blocks, and if you, like, we had a board that was bolted to the side of the joiner at the time that was 12 inches long. It's like, if your piece is shorter than this, it does not go over the joint.
No, right, exactly.
And
because both your hands are over the blade, at the same time all the time.
He was doing a short board about 8 inches. It bit the front lift up, the back dipped into the blade with his thumb.
Yeah, and he's holding on to it naturally.
There was nothing. We looked at the dust pile to try and find something. There was nothing. It was complete liquid. It just was red paste.
Gross. That's gross.
But again, he broke the rules.
Yeah, right, exactly.
The other one, the shop teacher, was resawing, but the board that he was resawing was tapered. So his first cut went through, he pushed it, he flipped it end over end.
Oh, no.
Having his thumb on here.
Flipped it up and pulled it.
The blade was too high for the short end that it was tapered. So he literally split his thumbnail down the center.
Ugh,
like,
gross.
I don't know, about 3/8 of an inch up to his thumb. And I was like, it really shouldn't happen. You should be using a push stick.
Yeah.
You know, even like me, I got tagged on my index finger because I was doing very thin, tapered laminate pieces.
Yeah.
And it was a contortionist's nightmare to do these.
Right.
And I got tagged on the tip of my finger, and I'm sitting there, and it seemed like it was 5-10 minutes, and I'm looking up at the ceiling. I felt my hand kick.
Okay. Did you look yet?
And I'm looking at the ceiling. It probably was just a few seconds, but I tell you, it felt like minutes.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, do I want to look at my hand right now?
Dude, I hate it. That's the worst part.
And you don't feel it, by the way.
No, definitely not.
The only thing I felt was my hand being pushed back.
Oh yeah.
Now, luckily, my hand was loose, and the blade kicked it back with minimal damage.
Yeah, it wasn't like it was staying there stiff or whatever.
No, it wasn't stiff. It wasn't continually pushed through.
Yep.
And yeah, it definitely teaches you a lesson.
Oh yeah.
If you don't respect this equipment, it will bite you.
I mean, so I was wearing this sweatshirt one time.
Yeah.
You noticed the first thing.
Yes.
I have some danglies because my hood has the rope to tighten my hood, and I was joining, and I was on the joiner, and I was halfway through it, and then one of these things it was still up near me. It wasn't even close, but I just noticed that it was swinging, and it was one of those things where I put it through the wash, and it was like this.
Ooh.
Where the one was way
one
longer
was long,
than the
one
other.
was short.
Yeah. I saw it dangling over the wood that I was joining. I was just froze, and I just hit it off with my knee, and I didn't move. I'm like, you can't be wearing loose dangling clothing around. It's like basic rules.
When Jake was in the shop that I was in, the first time I met Jake, my business partner hired his best friend's son.
Yeah.
Well, big mistake. We called this kid a squirrel because he had about as much common sense as a squirrel.
Yeah.
To the point where I was banning him from touching stuff.
Yeah.
And I was like,
well, especially because the rules here are my dad's rules. I don't really care about those.
But he liked these hipster. He was wearing plaid shirts that were huge. Yeah. And I'm like, dude, you can't wear that.
No.
And
it's gonna get caught on.
Did not listen to me. And the one day he was on the joiner, and the joiner grabbed his sleeve. Thankfully, they were sharp blades. It pulled
and it cut his sleeve. Yeah.
But it was probably halfway up his forearm before it gave up the ghost and let him go.
Yeah.
And after I told him, I was like, this stuff will eat you alive if you don't behave.
Absolutely.
So I ended up Googling lathes. Big machinery, big industrial lathes.
Yeah.
You don't get away from one of those. It winds you like a like a cord around whatever you're turning. There ain't nothing left but what's going to fit in a jar.
Right.
And I'm like, this stuff will literally rip your hand off.
Yeah.
It won't even, some of it won't cut your hand off. It'll rip it right off.
Yeah, right, exactly.
And at that point, it dawned on him that, whoa, maybe I should pay attention.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, not exactly the same thing, but we were talking with our neighbors the other day, and on our street, in a matter of 3 houses, there are 7 kids under 8 or under 9 or whatever. So they're bunch of little dudes, little chicks running around. And they all just love going near the street. They love it. We don't have lines on our street. It's a back street, but the light at the end of our street goes onto a main road, and everyone in the neighborhood knows that light takes forever. So if it's green, people fly down my street to try to get the green. So we're trying to think of a way to safely
speed bumps,
scare the hell out of them once.
I will tell you how I did.
I'm trying to do like a planned speed down and like make it close enough where they like feel wind of a car. But like I can't figure out how to do it.
No.
But it's kind of like I need them to be scared one time without getting hurt.
Grew up on an island with 1,200 people.
Yeah.
Like you see a car every 15 minutes. It really was not very busy. So, and my road was basically empty.
Yeah.
So they weren't really streetwise per se.
Sure.
So when we moved back here, on the road that I live on, there's quite a bit of traffic that goes up and down it. And my kids it never occurred to them. It's like, maybe I should look both ways, no matter how much you told them.
Right. Yeah.
They just run out.
Yep.
They want to go play with the kids across the street, right out in the middle of the road.
Yeah.
And I'd have a fit. Well, we got a lot of squirrels in our area, and they always get squished. So I would take them out, and there's this like flat as a pancake squirrel. And I said, see him? He didn't look both ways.
You know what? Maybe I should call like animal control and like the next time they pick up roadkill, like drop it off in front of my house.
That actually was the only thing that stopped my youngest from going into the road was that squirrel didn't look both ways.
Well, so I mean, just this afternoon we went and played. We had the kids playing over at the neighbor's house after school, and my little guy's 1.5, and they have a swing set with 2 swings and then that weird 2-person swing thing that like they face each other and it's like
yeah
right, or they face away from each other. And he's destined to get
bonked in the head.
He's destined to get punted like a kickoff. And he keeps running, and I keep knocking him down. Like, stop!
I keep on telling my girls I'm getting the meat collars.
Dude, and then he decided to go around the back of the swing set. We were talking, and then I'm like, "Here it comes!" I could see it. I could see my son, my older son, was swinging hard on that 2-person swing, and then the little guy was just like, "Hey, what are you doing?" He got smashed in the face with this plastic thing and got knocked on his ass, and like because it was plastic. And he got knocked over again. Like he went with it. He screamed for like a couple seconds, but he was fine and then up and running around again. But like I was like, he's not going to do that again.
Pain is one of the best teachers.
He's not going to do that again. And that's the thing. It's just like even with the saw stop, it'll stop, but do you know?
Oh no!
Do you know?
I look at that and I just
assume
I don't want to test it.
Assume it's not.
I don't want to test it.
The owner of the company has put his hand in demos.
I bet him.
Dude, you must really trust your shit.
Yes.
Because that's ballsy.
It does nick you too.
It does.
I mean, it's like a paper cut. Like
what's funny is I got cut on that machine the other day, but not on the blade. I got cut trying to replace that bearing on the inside, and the threaded rod is really sharp. And it's sliced. I think that was this one. Yeah, I was just trying to tighten it, and then I didn't notice. 5 minutes later, I'm like, why is there blood everywhere?
Yeah, it's like how many times you get cut with something that's sharp, you never feel it.
I never know. Either a chisel, which you have sharpened, not me. Because I suck at sharpening.
Yeah, everybody gets a warning when I sharpen knives or chisels.
Yeah.
I've already put 3 chefs in the hospital.
You're not going to feel this, dude.
It's like I sharpen it. I will show them of slicing paper. I can actually split hair.
Yeah.
I'll take a hair and split it.
You don't have hair.
Yes, I do.
I don't want it. Thank God we're not on video. I don't want it. You don't want to see that either.
The one chef, because I sharpen everything in the shop.
Yeah.
We ended up doing a lot of chef's knives, and people bring their knives in, and I do them. But the one chef, after he went and got like 20 some stitches, had a sign made up above his work area that says, "These knives are sharp. Be careful."
Yeah. It's like the hot coffee is hot.
Yes.
Knives are sharp. Thanks.
Hopefully nobody's suing me for like $90 million like they did McDonald's.
Oh my God.
But I didn't know they were that sharp. But
I think they could cut my skin.
Off topic of random things that we do
is
sharpening.
Yeah.
When you sharpen certain things you sharpen things a certain way for certain things.
Yeah.
Like if you're paring with a chisel, it's actually pretty good to have a coarse cut. Like use a lower grit. Like instead of sharpening to 5,000 grit, you sharpen to like 1,200 because it looks. If you look at it on a microscope, it's like a tiny saw. So it slices. It doesn't cut the fibers. It actually cuts them like a saw. And you find that sometimes that works better than a very polished edge, which might act as a wedge and split the fibers.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
So
and it starts walking on you.
Different
or
angles for different purposes.
Mm-hmm.
Like as you know, you have a chisel hidden somewhere.
I do. I have a lot of stuff hidden in here.
It's a PV11 blade that is sharpened strictly for doing kumiko, which is a Japanese style of making little itty bitty pictures with wood. But when you want something ultra sharp.
Well, and it's also softwood, so it needs to be even sharp.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hey, Mr. Jake's here.
Yo. What's up?
He does not look happy.
Oh, man.
Didn't get the truck parts?
We'll be right back.
We're back. Or we aren't.
No, we're back.
We're back. Okay.
Yeah. Jake walked into the shop and we took a break. And Mike, who's really, really old, had to pee because he's old. Sometimes that happens, as you age. You can't sit for an hour.
53. That's not old. And you're not that far behind.
I'm still on the right side of 40. I'll have you know.
No. Yeah. Well, no, you are on the right side. If you're looking at 40, it's the right side. So you're 40 something?
No, bro. I just turned 39.
And you look that way? You were that gray?
Again, why we are not on video, only audio. This is wife, mortgage, kids. That's my beard. It's pretty much the gray. And then I can't explain the hair. That I'm not losing my hair. It's growing faster now. I don't know what's happening there. All the brains are escaping out the top.
It'll start growing faster in places you did not have it before.
Yeah, I've met my grandfather. I know.
There's a bush growing out of your ear.
Dude, I still have to. I already have to clean up my ears. Yeah, no, that's a thing. It's kind of entertaining. It's like, ooh, it's that time of the month. I get to pluck my ears.
No, it's not. Next, you're going to be waxing your ears.
Oh, boy. Lord have mercy. I don't want to know all the shit that the old people have to do here.
No, the question is, do you have hair on your back now?
I never will. No, my dad has nothing either. I have no hair on my upper body really at all.
I did not have hair on my back until I started getting old. It's like I was fine. And then one day, boom, Sasquatch.
And look at that. We had a drop off. A drop off in listenership.
Well, we did go for a pause.
We did. But they don't know that because it's instant. The joy of pausing the recording and then resuming. So we just talked about a topic and then had a hard transition into we're back. It happened the first recording. Two people dropped off stuff for me. One guy dropped something off. Another guy was picking something up. And I just paused recording and then I just answered the door. So someone heard a garage door open. I was like, whatever. Amateur hour.
It is an entertaining job.
So, I mean, one of the things that's going to be really fun is having having enough hand tools actually in the shop for people to use and having them sharp all the time. So that's really going to be lot of fun.
So that's my full-time job.
I think your full-time job is going to be sharpening all the shit.
Well, we are going to do a sharpening course.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I took a sharpening course from Anne of all trades. She has a sharpen anything course. It's literally the basics, and if you understand this, you can sharpen anything. Sharpening turning tools kind of blows my mind without a Tormac or whatever it is, Tormac. I don't understand how the hell.
One of the best sharpeners I've ever used for turning tools is the Sorby's. It looks like a little belt sander.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's an industrial grade belt sander. It's got like I don't know, probably like a 3-inch.
Oh, like a knife sharpening belt?
No, it runs like you ever see the vertical belt sanders? Very similar with a nice fence.
Nice. Oh, interesting.
And it's I forget what the belts are made out of, but they run cold, so you don't need any water to grind. It's great for turning tools. Like we were turning for a while there, we were doing a lot of manzanita.
I don't know what that word is.
It's a bush out in California that gets these huge burls underground.
Oh, cool. Okay.
But they're just loaded full of sand and rocks and all sorts of shit.
Yeah.
And you're turning them.
You wouldn't just use carbide for all that?
Oh no, it would eat carbide apart.
Really?
Too. Yeah.
I thought carbide was like the dream for turning.
It is, but it doesn't work against like quartz and other stuff like that.
Right. Yeah.
The sand, it's like running it on sandpaper.
Oh yeah, I guess yeah.
And there were times you'd be going and you get a couple of minutes out of it. Other times you touch the turner to it, and you might get a couple seconds.
Yeah, dink. Oh, look, that was a rock.
It was real interesting because we were turning it wet.
Mm-hmm.
So if I took it, turned it, sanded it, I got it. It looked like a normal bowl or whatever I was doing.
Yeah.
But because it holds a lot of moisture in a desert for the plant.
Yeah.
That's why it has these huge roots.
Yeah. Does it just crack into a million pieces?
No, they shrink and wrinkle.
Really?
Yeah, it's the coolest thing because it gets this like wrinkly
interesting
texture, but you've already sanded it smooth.
Interesting.
So when you turn them wet, they look really, really cool.
Well, that's fun. Yeah, we got to get about 6 or 8 lathes for the shop too. I need to get a school. That's the thing. We need to find a school that's closing down.
Yeah,
and we need to pretty much take everything they got. That's pretty much what I'm looking for. If anyone knows a school that's closing in Pennsylvania, or New Jersey, or New York, or Maine, or anywhere really,
I drove up to Maine for equipment.
That's what I mean. If anyone knows of a school that's closing down that.
Well, the other thing
maybe selling a lot of their stuff off, I'd probably buy their whole shop.
If it's a makerspace, a lot of companies like Pony or Beezy or Veritas will actually give you discounts on buying stuff.
Yeah,
but you also offer those tools for sale.
Well, right. So that was the other thing. So I spoke to Rubio. I spoke to Total Boat. I'm just going to be a reseller of a lot of their stuff because one of the things that unfortunately leaving this shop, which we won't be able to do, is spray. Spraying is probably going to be out. So I've looked at you want to guess the number on a 5x10 spray booth installed, electric installed, like literally soup to nuts, ready to go.
15 to 20.
It's adorable. That's an adorable guess.
Okay, what is it?
$80,000.
Are you kidding me?
$80,000 for a 5x10 spray booth.
From who?
From a local company who doesn't even have to ship it anywhere. Because of all of the filter medium, all of the electric that goes into it, all of the ducting, all of the whatever, the delivery, all this kind of crap. It was they can bring it to you and not hook it up, and the hookup charge was like $9,000.
Wow.
Yeah, that I was expecting it to be expensive. I was not expecting that.
At that point, we look for a body shop that's getting rid of them.
That's what I mean. Like, so then, of course, because Facebook listens, I started getting used spray booths on Marketplace popping up, and apparently they are available. People do whatever, but I don't know if that would be worth my time either, because an older spray booth that you don't know what the hell you're looking at. I don't know. But so in that spirit, probably not going to be spraying there. So it's all going to be rub on finish in some way. For small furniture stuff, Rubio is great.
Rubio.
I wouldn't use it for a table.
Locks.
I wouldn't use it for a table myself. I've used it in the past. It's just there's no
we
production.
Can also teach we can teach French polish. It's actually not as hard as you think.
Isn't that just a million layers of shellac?
Yeah,
thinned out shellac or whatever.
Yep. You use a retaining pad into the cloth that soaks up the finish, and you're just using a little bit of oil and shellac and doing circular patterns to deposit thin layers, and it just builds up.
Interesting.
But we could do that. Brushwork.
What would be the class you'd be super excited to teach? Like a long form, like a week-long class? If we had all the tools for Windsor chairs, would that be that would be a fun one? I'm sure.
Chairs are fun.
Yeah.
When you're doing one.
Well, right.
When you're doing 16, it's not fun.
Yeah, I would imagine. I would imagine so.
Because like the 16 chairs I did for Princeton, were a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
And because they were a copy of a Philadelphia Arts and Crafts, it's thick. It has no give. So every single joint you had with the through tenons and the tusks to hold them has to be perfect.
Yeah.
And whereas a Windsor chair, which is most people don't understand, is they're flexible for a reason.
Absolutely.
With the way that they're under a little bit of stress, they're strong but flexible and light.
Yeah.
So a Windsor chair is actually easier to build than an arts and crafts chair correctly.
Yeah.
Now, if you do an arts and crafts chair with a domino or not through tenon and tusked, it gets a little bit easier.
Yeah. Right.
But yeah,
like I'm definitely going to be taking that class at some point down in Asheville. It's definitely going to happen. I want to go from throwing all the way down to the finish thing. I think that's really fun. This other guy that's been helping me out with the letterpress over there, he just made a Windsor chair and is planning on making a bunch more. But he built exactly what I thought of for this shop. He built a in-shop little kiln, but mostly for all of the sticks. So after he froze them and get them into rough shape, he's throwing them into this thing, and he just has a couple 100-watt light bulbs in there, and it heats it up to 145 degrees or whatever the hell he needed to get it to, and that was it. And then he keeps it in there for 4 or 5 days, and they're ready for final fit and everything.
Nice.
It's pretty sweet. And just with rigid foam insulation and 2x4s, and it's perfect. And he even had the bottom open, so the heat would be trapped up in there, but he'd still get fresh air. It was actually pretty cool.
Nice.
And super light, and he fit it under his workbench. It's actually a pretty sweet little setup, and for really cheap, for literally 2 light bulbs. And he still had the moisture meter in there. He had the temperature thing in there. It's pretty cool. But yeah, the Windsor chair class would be really fun.
Windsors are fun. I like Windsors.
That can't be a big class.
No.
It's got to be, 4 people?
It's like 4 to 6 people, depending on what you can do. I probably would stick to 4.
Yeah. Just from the tools themselves, if everyone's doing the same thing at the same time.
So I don't know. Did you take a look at the one video I sent you where everything is the molds are removable for like the back bend?
Yeah.
Where he quick can put a ratchet strap on it.
Yes. Yeah.
It's got its own little peg stops.
Yeah.
And he pops it off, and the next person can do it. So you can actually do, a dozen backs.
Oh, so you steam them, you put them into the form, and then the ratchet strap holds that form, and you can take it out.
And you pop the whole form off your assembly.
That's pretty cool.
You're still using the same crank or bender with the metal strap to bend your backs.
That's cool.
But once you get it bent, it just gets ratchet and pegged in place, and you grab it and throw it to the side, or whoever is doing it, you give it to them. And then you have another mold that pops right into your bending press, and you bend it again.
That's pretty cool.
So that's one of the reasons I sent you that, because if it's one person doing it, really not much of you're doing a couple a day. But if you're doing a whole class, it makes it a lot easier to do it with the modular forms that you can bend with.
Yep. The Pennington class down in Nashville, they do most of the ones they do is the continuous back. So he's got the that's one funky jig where you're bending it in 3 different directions or whatever.
Yep.
But once you bend it in there, you just keep it in there, and that whole entire thing is going in the kiln while it's strapped together, which is interesting. So you need a form per student, pretty much.
Now, one course that I doubt would ever exist because nobody's going to stay that long, but like a Maloof chair,
a pool cue course.
No, a Maloof rocking chair.
I love them.
It's
on a bucket list for
but
one
like
day.
Everybody that I know that has ever made one, that's a hobbyist, it takes them 6 months.
Yeah.
But they're gorgeous.
What's the hardest part about it?
Uh,
that many through mortise and tenons
no,
that all have to kind of be exact, or what?
No, it's actually just getting the curves and getting everything tapered, sanded. His chairs actually go together relatively easy.
Is it just a matter of if you've never built one?
Yeah.
If you're not figuring that out by yourself, I'm sure
it's very intimidating.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at this thing, you're like, well, how does the leg go into the seat? And yet, it's just a template that does it.
Yeah.
It's a neat chair. It would be something that if you have somebody that's taken a lot of courses with you and has progressed, that we might consider doing a Maloof chair.
Interesting.
Whereas a Windsor, you can get a Windsor done in a week.
Right. Interesting. Yeah, no, that sounds pretty good. Yeah, and that's the thing. I don't think nothing can really go longer than 5 days. I feel like. I mean, just reality.
Very few people are going to take it. Like some of the chair courses are 2 weeks at other places.
Yeah.
And they're very expensive.
Yeah.
You're running sometimes $6,000 to $10,000, and you're like, is this really worth it?
Well, that's the thing, because you're also going to a place where everyone that's taken the Pennington Windsor chair course, so like once you go home, it's very unlikely you're going to make another one by yourself, like in your shop, unless you're dedicated.
You're
to
dumping
really
money into equipment.
It's a lot of
tools
stuff he has
to make a chair.
Yep.
There's a reason why chair makers are just chair makers. That's all they do.
Yeah. Right. Everything's set up in a process.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I might want to say we could go to do more advanced courses, like doing dressers, bureaus, beds, something that maybe as you go along and you have certain people that are with you for a while, or people that are students, you might do an assisted course.
Yeah.
To do something like that.
Yeah. And honestly, that's probably going to be something where social media marketing, all that kind of stuff comes into play, where it's like polling people in the community, like, what course would you like to see? We're thinking about doing these 3 courses, or one of these 3 courses, and not doing it until you have a full sign up, until you have a full class, because sometimes you can't just run a class just because you want to, and then there's one person there.
Right.
That doesn't really pay off.
Now, another thing for courses is just an introductory, because, I brought in the Kumiko sled and the ball and all the jigs and all that.
Yep.
But an introductory to Kumiko is actually something that can be done in a day.
Sure.
To 3 days.
Yep.
They can make panels. They can make ornaments. Like the snowflake ornament in Kumiko is pretty cool.
Yeah.
You can make trivets.
And that's the thing, because you can learn the skill without making a giant panel.
Right.
Because it literally is, once you get
it's just repetition.
5 by 5 inches, you've done it. Like now it's just repeating the same thing over and over and over and over. Yeah, no, that'd be cool.
When you look at that sled, you go, damn, that thing is complicated.
Yes. So I sent you the guy that makes all the Kumiko sleds with all the different angles or whatever. You can buy them.
Yeah.
If someone goes home and is like, there's no way I'm going to remake that sled. Well, you don't really have to. There are other ways, as long as you get the concept.
And I mean, that also breaks into another function of woodworking, is probably 75% of all woodworking is jigs. You're making jigs to do certain things,
which is also that's also a hard class because it's like you have to just know. And I'm starting to learn this now, where if I've needed to make a jig in here, I can normally get it. Sometimes I just kind of get stuck, and Jake's like, "Which angle? Where do you want to cut this? Just hold it there, and then build stuff up until it holds it there." It's easier said than done, but
that's a little by the seat of your pants doing. There is actually a science
to it. I'm sure there is.
But just getting your mind wrapped around thinking that I need to repeat things.
Yeah.
So, like when we did those 16 chairs, I had a template that ran on a. My mind went blank on the pattern. A pattern bit on the shape. Big ass. Multi-bladed pattern bit. So you just do repeat.
Yeah.
And it was a bit boring because Jake was with me when we were doing those. And it was like, okay, Jake, put this in the jig, run it through the pattern bit, pull it out, run the next one.
Oh, yeah.
Pull it out. And he was doing that for days.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yep. I think we counted it. It was like there's 70 different parts to one of those chairs.
Yeah.
We were going down to using ebony for the
plugs,
pegs, the plugs, and we're doing diamond plugs, square diamond plugs.
Right. Yeah. Just like a little sanding jig, a little so little fine tuning ones.
It would really boggle your mind when you watch me do it, but I would just take a chisel, turn it bevel side down, put it next to the plug, and tap it with a mallet, and the taper on the chisel would ride it up. And I just go on four corners, and it made perfect pyramids.
Right.
It looked really good.
Yeah.
And it was fairly quick.
Mm-hmm.
I've used the Kumiko jigs to do exact angles on plugs or on posts where they're really small. When I do the chopsticks, I do the pyramid the top with a jig.
Nice.
And it's repeatable. Same thing with making the chopsticks. It's done on a jig with a hand plane, and you can make them again and again and again.
Yep.
Now that would be a decent course for you, is a maki board with chopsticks, a soy bowl and a wasabi bowl, and the rest. That someone could actually do that in 3 days.
Yeah. No, that would be cool. And that would also be a lot of different tools. That would be a pretty broad exposure to the shop.
You're using turning, you're using, spindle sanders, you're using the table saw, the joiner, the planer.
Yep.
Hand planes.
That'd be cool. I like that.
I mean, I'm all set up. We have the jigs sitting up over there.
Yeah.
For doing triangular chopsticks, 4-sided chopsticks. I'm working on a 6-sided chopstick right now.
Mm-hmm.
But those jigs will be readily available.
Yeah.
And we will teach people if they wanted to learn how to make their own jigs.
That's cool. I like it. Well, that's I think we're about a time, but so this has been Mike Pietras or something, whatever his name is. He's gonna be an instructor. He's gonna be teaching some really fun courses at MontCo Makers once we're open. Still underway. Obviously, there's a lot to do, but making progress every week. We're inching towards it. And if you want to support MontCo Makers, you want to support the show, you can go to patreon.com/MontCo Makers. Follow us on Instagram. You can follow me. I'm Dan Skirma at Woshot Woodworking. And I'm not going to try to do your name on Instagram. Did you just spell your name wrong on Instagram?
No, it's Michael Pietras, Pietras.
There you go.
And it's easy to find on Instagram. You'll see some of the woodworking. You'll see a lot of kid and dog pictures.
No, there you go.
Mixed in.
Yeah. No, likewise. But
I didn't take Jake's advice of doing two, one for woodworking, one for everything else.
Nice.
But
the first we'll do it this way. We keep on trying to think of what to give the first paid patron of the show. So we'll send you a set of chopsticks. That'll be part of your package.
That's cool.
Send you a bunch of stuff. But yeah, we'll see you next week, and thanks for tuning in. See you later.
See you.